Hello. So there it is, a little unusual stream. I don't think I've ever done that, like an unboxing of a record. But yeah, I thought it was a little bit of a special special occasion. I've been asked to do videos about Nurse's Wound almost since I started to do these videos. But I thought I've never done it for real, and so that video is still to be made in a way. But I thought like showing a pretty nice or exceptional Nurse's Wound release could be an excuse to talk about Nurse's Wound rather than just like do an analysis of the whole discography. So I prepared a few things, but it will be pretty free freestyle. So let's see. This arrived today from the Netherlands, and I haven't listened to the record before. Haven't looked too much about it before, how it looks or whatever. I know it's not like the one he did 2 years ago on the same label, Astres D'Or, which was also limited to 25 copies, but with cover, like unique artwork, cover art. So there we go. So it's just a vinyl record, huh? Nothing special. Yeah, there it is. Oops. So let's put it on. Usually I start all my streams with with music. So this is not a vinyl record. This is a laugh cut with, instead of a label, you got an etching by Stapleton. Can't really see it. Yeah, here's one. And from my experience with that label, it's the fourth record I buy from this label. The quality is exceptional. So let's see. Starts dead silence. Silent. Okay. So here it is. Miss Mentler, a film by Andrew Kiosh in collaboration with Steven Stapleton, music Nurse's Wound, voxylation, and words I can't understand. Okay, some participation by James Worth. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. And they only did 25 copies. It's a double, huh? Very, very intricate cutting. You can't really see, but I believe all sides are over 20 minutes, which for laugh cuts is not usual. Quick word about laugh cuts. Sometimes they sound horrible. Sometimes they sound great. From my understanding of it, as I press the vinyl records myself, this is a completely different technique. I've witnessed it. I've visited labels, or studios who do this. But oh, I forgot to do this. Let me see. There you go. Now this you should have the real sound. I'll be reading your comments in a second. But yeah, laugh cuts can be cut with mono heads or stereo heads. And virgin laugh cuts are either mono or stereo. So you have to have the right combination to have a good sound. Pretty often, small amateur laugh cuts are done the wrong way and have terrible sounding quality. But this is obviously not the case. So, okay, let me quickly see. Hello, Michael, Luis, Dom. Dom has been a bad boy with me today, but we'll forgive him. Yeah, Nurse with Wound shirts, indeed. I didn't choose that one. It came with this. I'll talk about it in a second. Hello, Johan. Hello, PDD. Hello, Geoff. Hello, Faust. Hello, Dops. And hello, Frank. So, yeah. So why do I talk about a Nurse with Wound record like this one? Because they did 25 copies of it. And when they do 25 only, it's not that it's a limited edition of another pressing. It's the only edition of that record. So of course it came with a high price, a 3-figure price. And these records were sold out within seconds. Actually, I bought this from the label Astres D'Or, who sell half of the batch. The other half will be sold on Nurse with Wound's own website shortly. They haven't received them yet, I believe, as they are being done. And the quality of these laugh cuts, from my understanding, means that like it takes a while to make one. So this is a much more basic presentation than the one they did before. I'll show you the one they did before. About 3 years ago. That I talked extensively on that channel. This one, you know which number out of 25 it was. So it came as 2 records, both with homemade jackets, homemade and original art. This is hand painted and created by Stapleton. Here it is numbered actually, and both records are like that. Other than that, they present exactly the same way as the one I showed you. Oh, some some finger prints. Yeah, I've been playing that record quite a lot. So, sure, it's not ideal to spend a big amount of money
to Harpenstad.
On a new record.
Waves gwilt with a pelcerous frozen.
This one was sold at
then
650 euro price. It is ridiculous in a way. But the thing is that when I first bought Nurse with Wound record in 1994, Rock and Roll Station.
So Waldy with Bastia.
Let's see if I can find it easily. Yeah. So it was released on CD originally on Steven Stapleton's own label, Rock and Roll Station. Then they did like outtakes of this on vinyl. Really cool album, Second Pirate Station or Session. And then they finally published this in the 2000s, in 2006. Which is to this day maybe still one of my, yeah, it's definitely top 5 Nurse with Wound albums. When I bought this, I knew about Nurse with Wound from distance. I was going to the record stores. I was mostly buying indie, some electronic, and one summer I decided to step outside of my comfort zone and buy 3-4 CDs of music that looked intriguing and cool, but that I had very little knowledge about, because it wasn't played on the radio stations or programs I was listening to. And so I got a record by Einstürzende Neubauten, a record by Chrome, a record by Aphex Twin, I think, the selected ambient 172, and that one. And I was hooked, but I wasn't hooked to the point that back then I was already looking for the old Nurse Moon records. There was no discogs, so also the information was not easy to find. Eventually, in a shop in Paris called Odd Size, legendary shop for avant-garde, industrial, ambient, sound poetry, I found a copy of the bootleg of the first Nurse Susan album. I didn't know it was a bootleg because I had nothing to compare it for, but I paid very little for it. And so it is a solo, this one, Steve. And Savano, there's no other versions of that. There's not even a digital version so far. There probably will be a digital version. Yeah, that's the one video about him in his Irish farm. But okay, so basically back then I was just like getting the Nurse's Moon records I was finding. I was not super actively seeking them out, but I was buying every single new Nurse's Moon records. And most of them back in the 90s came out as CDs. So I got a lot of Nurse's Moon CDs. And as a Nurse's Moon, Steven Stapleton is a graphic designer. Of course, these records are also nice to look at. Now that I can have vinyl versions of them, it's even nicer looking. But I remember, I think it was around 2004 or 5, I decided to take an active stance in collecting Nurse's Moon. I'll show you a bunch of CDs also that I got that are quite fun. But at one point I decided, I want all the Nurse's Moon records I like, which is 99% of them, and the 1% I don't like. It's not I don't like it, is that I'm not sure about it, and I revisit them every now and then on Bandcamp just to see if I warm up to them. Because Nurse's Moon is the only band I allow myself to be a fan of. And I do so because Steven Stapleton is still alive and producing, so I'm supporting him. Because I like the music, I like the artwork, and also because he makes it quite fun to collect his work, even if sometimes it's quite painful on the wallet. So around 2005, I got this.
What?
The first Nurse's Moon record, first pressing. I was not too fussy about the condition I was going to get. I happened to get like a near mint version with the numbered from 79. Chance meeting on the dissecting table of a sewing machine and an umbrella, which already put him in the surrealist wave of art, if the cover didn't give it away already. This, of course, came with the legendary Nurse's Moon list, which I used in the thumbnail of this video. An insert listing band and artist names with no context. Just says categories strain, crack, and sometimes break under their burden. Step out of the space provided. If you're interested in LPs of electric experimental music, please write to the United Dairies Produce, with an address in London and 2 addresses in London and 1 in Surrey. These sleeve notes are dedicated to the Nihilist Spasm band. Sorry guys, I see quite some comments and I'm talking a lot because I have a lot to say. But when I got that record, that was about when Nurse also started to do live shows again, because he had a few live shows in the 80s that were not that he was quite frustrated with. So he decided, I'm quitting. I'm quitting live shows. By the late 90s, as with Coil, his music that had for the longest time been put lazily in the goth music, industrial goth music category, was finally taken seriously by people who were not as invested in it as me and other fans. Namely, The Wire did articles about Steven Stapleton. They were already reviewing the records, but finally they were showing their audience that this is a legitimate artist that is worth taking seriously, besides the niche he finds himself in. And by saying niche, I think I already undersell him, because with Nurse's Wound you will get stuff like that. Collage, avant-garde, electroacoustic, musique concrète. You also will get drone. You will also get like cartoon music. You will also get ambient. You will also get noise. You will also get crowd rock. You will also get very psychedelic music. And you will also get a ton of collaborations with pretty cool artists such as Faust, Sun, Stereolab, so many, and lots of people who collaborate with Nurse's Wound, namely the guys from from Coil, from Current 93. There's a tight connection between David Tibet and Steven Stapleton from the beginning. But yeah, that's a longer topic. But as I said, yeah, I collect Nurse's Wound because I like the music, I support the artist, and it's a fun band to collect because there's a lot. First, there's the releases, the regular releases. Like fairly recently, this album was released, I think a year and a half ago or so. That was not a normal release, since he did 4 variant covers of it, basically the same cover but with different artworks, and it's a 2-track LP, 500 copies. This sold out quite fast. I believe some people collected different variants, which is a bit silly, but Nurse's Wound can attract what's her name? Taylor Swift types of collectors, people who want every single variations. But a few months after this was released, he did that, the compendium to the Opium Cabaret record. Opium Cabaret was actually a great psychedelic Nurse's Wound, but then he did this one, hand-sprayed cover with a tiny collage, original collage behind, only 100 copies. So, of course, he kind of gets you hooked and you want to have it, and he makes you pay a premium for it, of course. But you actually get really nice objects, collectible, if that's what you're into. But why can't you be into the whole package? The collectability, the cool aspect, the music, the supporting. And I believe a lot of people who are into Nurse's Wound have the same approach. And of course, that means that you have to invest yourself quite tightly, quite deeply into his world. Because how do I get this? Well, I'm on mailing lists. They announce when it will be for sale. And you have to be there, because if you miss the the time frame, then you have to hope for the second hand market, discogs or private sellers or whatever, which is not that easy always. Like this was extremely expensive. Still, one of these 25 copies someone bought last year for 3,000 euros or quid. I'm not sure. I didn't buy this as an investment. It's fun that it is that way, but it's also fun to have like really weird records, such as one of my favorite 90s Nurses on album is Who Can I Turn to Stereo, featuring lots of collaborations or contributions by people from Coil, Current 93, etc. And this was only released as a CD. In the early mid 2000s, they did an album called Stereo Wastelands, which was outtakes, reworks of the tracks from that album. And they released it as a CD and also as a 30 copy acetate with pictures of, here you have Peter Christopherson, Stephen Stapleton, John Balance, David Tibet here. I know Stephen Frower is somewhere here. Yeah, here. And so it's an acetate, so it smells, petroleum, and yeah, has some inserts and a sort of certificate. But 2 years ago, 2 years ago, I believe, they finally reissued the original Stereo Wasteland, as a double LP, and also as a limited box set with 2 bonus CDs, and the double LP has like one side of new recordings as well. Also came with a T-shirt, a Nurse's Wound Labyrinth game, some pins, like a Nurse's Wound notebook, and tons of postcards, stuff like that. Basically making it a little bit silly, but also a little bit more fun to collect and to get. One of my favorite albums from Nurse's Wound. But these are kind of the premium stuff. But there's also, of course, CDs. This was released first, as a metal box on CD, which included like a napkin, a handkerchief, and a bunch of stuff. Then it was issued on vinyl a few years later. Sometimes you would buy the CDs, and if you were early on, you'd get like a bonus CD. This is one of my favorite ones. A hand job from the Laughing Policeman, which is, it's an actually properly printed CD. But sometimes there would be CDRs. And sometimes Nurse's Wound will also do stuff like that. Work in progress, like for albums that he's about to release or that he's working on, he packages some work in progress, some outtakes, and prints CDRs and sell them for about usually between 15 and 25 bucks on his website. And usually these don't go up in price until he decides that, well, I'm not going to produce them anymore because now the final album, the final product, the final version is out. He also he's well known for doing exclusive that he sells during the live shows. This one, also with quite nice package.
Its durable
Oh,
concrescence,
oh, oh.
owned by Sparaglossaverus.
Yeah, this one is on wood, on a wood panel
Bequaddled for reflectable.
with some printed matter. But yeah, I was about to talk about the live shows and I got sidetracked. So by 2004 or 5, he started to do live shows again because of people, like a new audience finding him as well, since he was getting taken more seriously by the critics and the press, etc. And I went to see him in, I think it was in 2005 or 6, at his very first gig in London at the Royal Elizabeth Hall with the organum opening. A big theater, everyone seated. David Tibet was guesting. There were percussionist was also added to the band that by then included Andrew Lyles, Matt Valdron, and Colin Potter. And from on then, he started to tour the world quite regularly. Each gig with like a goodies board and table with exclusives that sometimes people would go to the gigs mostly for that with a budget, and these were fun. The first gig I saw was exceptional. I've seen him 5 times since then, and this is still the best one to date. But maybe, yeah, it was also because of the whole uniqueness. I didn't know that he would go on and do more regularly. Yeah, I don't know if like Johan is talking about the mini CDs so far. This editor, this publisher, French, called the L'Encalente, doing publishing poetry or rare texts by surrealists, poets, or people involved, close or not, with surrealism, with 3-inch CDs with original music by Narcissus Wound. So far, he's done 11 to my latest count, and there was recently a compilation of the 2 first on vinyl, which means that I don't need to buy all the small books like that. Every now and then he will also do something like that. Objet politique. Again, a 3-inch. Like you get like a nice little box set. With a 3-inch CD, a pin, signed card, and a bunch of postcard of original Nurse's Wound, collage, stuff like that. And he will sell them for a quite normal price. Like this was supposed to be limited to 200, but the demand was so high that he did 300. And now getting one of these is you have to pay more than the $20 that this costed when this was released. And there's all kinds of formats: 10 inches, laugh cuts, 7 inches. Like, of course, he's got a lot of 7 inches throughout time because, he started in 79 and lots of collaborations. Here, Nurse's Wound with the Termite Queen. Here's a weird one with some etching as well, but this is pressed. This is not left cut. And Sinister Senile EP, amazing collaborations with Current 93.
Butterblind, a furful tift, smotten by mammaglossit.
Yeah, on the World Serpent label, on the Clofist label, and as you can see, the artwork always something quite unique that I take it for granted. I was thinking about that earlier today. Like when I get a Nurse Who's record, the cover is what I expect often. But I was thinking, if you don't know Nurse Who's and your favorite band had a cover like that, how cool would that be? Or uh, or maybe a picture disc like oops. Yeah, that one was pretty fun. This came as a regular black 7-inch and the variant, of course, which is a little more in demand. I bought most of those when they were released. And this was the latest one, actually, Shipwreck and Roll, which alludes to Rock and Roll Station and to the Shipwreck Sessions, which is about to be released on vinyl. It's a double CD that from the mid 2000 as a free LP box set. I think Steven Stapleton is already selling art versions of the test pressings of these records, because that's what he does. Also, one of the other cool things to collect, before the album comes out, he usually sells on his website or auctions art versions, which means that he will sell the test pressing and do a unique piece of art as the cover art, like usually like painted collage, and these sell for it's been interesting to see how much he's increased his prices in the past like 5-6 years, because yeah, it's these are I've given up on them. I'm happy to get the regular version, and actually that's always been my thing. I only on one occasion have I bought a record that was an art edition that had nothing exclusive music wise to the vinyl version, to the art edition. Uh, the one I'm playing right now, I'm getting it because it's going to be the only vinyl version. So if there's no other vinyl versions of it, if there was a cheap one, I would get it, but and I'd be perfectly happy with it. But in that way, yeah. Let me show you a couple of other fun special edition he has. I think. Okay. I was talking about this with Geoff, the space music that came out as a regular LP, but also with a bonus 12-inch picture disc only there. This is nice, but let me see if I can find it. So one of my favorite nurses on record, Salt Mary Celeste, he did a fun thing. He did release it as Salt, which is Salt Mary Celeste is drones with noises, concrete sounds. This Salt is the drone part without the noises, but the exclusive version has the drone record plus a bonus record of the sounds on one side, the concrete sounds, and on the other side, an actual collage by Steven Stapleton. This is another picture. This is like paper glued, and as you can see, on the actual record. That is pretty cool. I also got like the a mispress of that record on a regular clear record. They only did 5 copies of that, but that's a test pressing. Then he was also doing these, like 10 years ago, he did a series of 100 copy limited mini albums that came in these PVC seal screen jackets. Yeah, this is seal screen. And he did 3 of these. thank you, Sean. Sean sent us a little coffee in the coffee jar. Like, yeah. This is not my regular streams where I introduce you guys to unusual records, but well, I guess it is in a way. Here's another one, also with one of these homemade seal screen PVC covers, but this one has also an old, I don't know how to call that, the photographs, negatives on glass from way back. Stuff that Steven Stapleton collects and regularly use on special projects, special covers. And another thing that is pretty fun to collect with Nurse Suzun is that it's not just Nurse Suzun, but it's a whole galaxy of artists who collaborate with him closely or less closely. And I mean, you can choose whoever you like, but there is a core group with Andrew Lyles, Colin Potter, and Matt Valdron, pardon. And these, I really, really like the three of them. And they have also several side projects. I've showed some of these already, but here are some Colin Potter records. This is Aura. I'm getting a new Aura record actually. Yeah, some collaboration of his with the guys from what's his name? Guy Dozen from. They just released an album. Oh, I forget. More Aura. The Phobia Hex records produced and recorded by Colin Potter in his studio. The Malvaldron stuff is super cool as well. Like this album, artwork by Malvaldron, also a graphic artist, with kind of artwork between Dali and Jim Woodring, really cool. You could pre-order it and get 120 copies limited version of a bonus EP with original artwork by Matt Valdron on a golden paper leaf. Also this one that came out as an LP plus 7-inch with a beautiful seal screen cover art, also quite limited, and also some records that are less limited. And of course Andrew Lyles, who has quite extensive discography. Here there was also a box set on vinyl on demand of collection of Miscellany Deluxe. But I was showing this, the same, but with Nurse Suzun, which is a 5 or 6 LP plus a 10-inch plus a weird thing, a collection of all his cassette-only work. So all the albums that were only released on cassettes in the 80s, and tracks that were released on cassette compilations. So this is like a kind of probably fake silk box set, which came out with a fun card for the limited edition. And that came with this t-shirt. So I didn't choose this design. It just came with this, as you can see. It makes sense. And yeah, so of course, yeah, these guys, Andrew Lyles, also some cool 7 inches. Yeah, here is Irapext. Oh, another collaborator, Aranos. And Jonathan Colclough is not directly collaborating with him, but directly collaborating a lot with Colin Potter. And so, yeah, Nurse's Wound is not just with Nurse's Wound, it's the collaborators of the collaborators. It's opening a whole new galaxy. And as I was showing a few weeks ago, he also did artwork for other bands. So this cover of one of the best coil record, in my opinion, Steven Stapleton. He did lots of stuff for legendary Pink Dots, for Cure 93, all these bands. So there's that, and there's also the label United Dairies, which I don't know if I have prepared anything here. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, which releases all the bands such as Asmus Chance I showed, but here is Mastichanadu. What else? Just like it really is opening you to so much of the industrial music world that is more on the psychedelic music side of things. Sure, it's industrial noise, drone, collage, musique concrète, but it is. I think the big appeal this has to me is because of the psychedelic nature of that music. Here, this collaboration he did with Stereolab, amazing artwork again. Simple headphone mind, great design. This is like a shoegaze monster. This is like a loop of shoegazy Stereolab with tons of crazy musique concrète sounds, dubbing, echoing, and it's just beautiful. It's not that difficult to get into. I would even argue it's not difficult at all. And I was blessed to start to get into Nurse's when this came out, when Rock and Roll Station came out. Rock and Roll Station has rhythm, like almost hip hop ish rhythms, which is interesting since in the early 2000s, Steven Stapleton had the project to do a hip hop album and to work with MCs, mostly female MCs. That was the project. Eventually, it turned out to be too time consuming and difficult, and it didn't happen. Yet, who knows? Because that's also one of the other things fun to collect with Nurse's Wound. He is auctioning next week a record. I shouldn't even talk about it, but it's an unreleased test pressing of a collaboration with Faust, which means that they worked on the music and for some reason decided not to release it. And the Nurse's Wound side might have been released somewhere else, maybe on a CD, and the Faust side is still unreleased. And he's auctioning the test pressing of that with custom-made artwork both by him and Jean-Hervé Perron of Faust. So there's always these things that really sucks you back into all of that. Yeah, I hope I gave a fair image of how, sure, Nurse's Wound is music, but it's also, it's also really fun to collect, both because it's a little bit difficult, I would say, in a way. There's so much. And so sometimes you maybe have to forget about your completist mentality, if that's what you have. Well, I'm in the position where I should be a completist. There's still like 4 Nurse's Wound records that I could have. One that I can't have because it's impossible. But this was a cool series as well. He did an LP of raw sounds, the Zero Mix for Material, Angry Electric Finger, And then there was 3 LPs of collaborations of this being reworked by Irapext, Cyclob, and Jim O'Rourke. Because of course Jim O'Rourke is actually close to that in so many ways. Jim O'Rourke of Sonic Youth, but most of his own fame and of producing so many big indie acts such as Wilco and like whatever. And these records, I remember when they came out, there was like kind of a collector honey trap with them. And so we had to get the 3 of them to get the raw material LP, and of course I did. And these records are not particularly expensive now. Like you can find them for quite cheap actually. And that's what I wanted to say that I think is the most important thing here, is that because a lot of people still have the collector mentality about most of this, the ones that are not hyped, that don't have anything special, they tend to get less focus on. The thing is that a new Nursezoon record being released on 500 copies gets sold out. A record from 20 years ago that had a pressing of 500 copies, you can still find it often for quite a normal price, for between 15 and 30 bucks. So there's still quite a few records of Nursezoon to be found that are affordable. And thankfully, he seems to be in good health and he's constantly producing new stuff. Sometimes you'll get these semi-cheap CDRs that become collectible maybe or not, but like you can just enjoy the music. Sometimes he does these records as the one I'm playing right now that come with a premium, but he will also do a regular album at a regular price of like 20, 25 euros. But you kind of need to be there when it's being released now. Before, like 10 years ago, it was easier. Now, yeah, you have to have a little bit of focus and to follow closely other Nursezoon or the collaborators or the labels who he works with, because sometimes it's like that. There was recently an Aura LP, 66 or 55 laugh cut of their best album, the Topper. How do you know about that? Difficult. You have to be on the mailing list of Colin Potter, because Nursezoon is not part of it, so he's not advertising it. But yeah, you have to have an active network of stuff you follow in order to be in a position to make the educated choice on what you want to get from the new releases, the new issues, etc. And now I'm gonna rest my tongue for a little while, but going back to the comments and read if there's something that catches my mind. Catches my eye, I mean. Sorry.
Mightably wigworn, this inquisit grove, June, botterblind, a farful tift, smotten by mammoth.
Yeah. No, I'm not. That's the thing. It's the one band I do that for. And I have to plan it and to sell stuff sometimes. So yeah, this is not like the deep dive Nursezoon video that I've promised or said I agreed to eventually do, but it's the closest you get so far from me. Okay, it's less stuff to collect. Yeah, you see, like Geoff, he's got about 15. Like I know a lot of people who like Nursezoon, and like if you have like 15 records of Nurse's Wound, it's probably enough for most people. Then again, he is still active and creative and evaluating. So this is, yeah. And honestly, I don't have a single Nurse's Wound record where I don't have something I actually love on. Yeah, I agree with you, Dom. I think I have a CD. I don't. Yeah, maybe I have collaboration, but I don't have any nearly spasm band. Yeah, absolutely. Here's okay. I pulled out. Yeah, he did all this collaboration with the artist, choreographer Graham Bowers. These are great. What did I pull? Oh yeah. Is also one of these limited to 100 special editions collaboration with Bladder Flask, with an original collage, painted collage artwork. Thank you, Dimitri. Yeah, well, it's a little disjointed in a way, but I just wanted to show this. Like I know people like or do these like unboxings, and I thought I'll do one, but for something that matters to me and that is a little bit unique. Oh my god, so many messages. Let's see. Yeah, like most CDs I bought of Nurse's Wound, I bought them secondhand for less than $10 in the 90s. Absolutely, even in the late 90s, mid-late. And yeah, mislabeled industrial goth. And I also enjoyed that they did that. And as you can hear, like this one is probably of the most, like almost like a field recording with collage and musique concrète, but it's very rare that Nurse's Wound is actually really dark. Well, that's one of my favorite Nurse's Wound recordings, which is actually a Colin Potter record. And Cookie Monster in the background. No, it's a soundtrack, but I just got. Yeah, it's a no. I think it's a collaboration actually, Michael Valentini, but it's only CD. So I stopped getting all the CDs. I've made a conscious decision. Okay, if I'm getting these expensive limited releases, yeah. Yes, that book that I bought the first edition back then and lent to someone who I don't remember whom, and I hope that person has forgotten as well. This is a book that is really important, really useful if you want to get into Nurse's Wound, Coil, Current 93, and a bunch of other bands from that galaxy of like post-industrial, psychedelic, magic music. Extensive look interviews at all of them and the connections. Very interesting by this guy who's in that band. That is pretty cool. I forget all the names. Of course they are. When they and yes, the point. Yeah, I have a Nurse's Wound picture disc that sound horrible, absolutely horrible, but also some that sound good enough. SFTRI. What is that again, Von Zipper? Remind me. I might not know them. Who knows? It's not Simon Fisher Turner, but I guess. But it's not like I could buy a house. And it's also very dear to me. Like I met him a few times, not privately, publicly. But I've been, yeah, most of my favorite ones I have signed to me by him. So yeah, yeah. Uh, Bye bye, Johan. But this will be up, I guess. There, uh, I suspect this will not be taken down because me playing this that just got released in 25 copies. Uh, uh, yeah, yeah. Ah, nice. Yeah. He recently did a laugh cut of an early record that didn't sound that good, that laugh cut. But yeah, simple headphone mind is must have if anyone wants to use these words. All right, all right. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, I missed the message now. I saw some. Okay, yeah. Uh, yeah. All right, so oh yeah, now yeah, I remember this came out on CD also. I bought two copies of this one for my friend and one for me. Then I bought another one. This was I remember when this was released. I believe in '95 or '96. I bought it at the Rough Trade shop, and it was weird because it was obviously so good, and it was still like kind of looked with suspicion upon by most people who wouldn't have looked twice on a regular Stereolab release and bought it. But this is I like Stereolab. I like at least up until '94, and I think yeah, this is by far the best Stereolab track, which they included in one of their compilations of recent. Mhm. No, I haven't. Send me a link of that.
Glathering smuddo, griffers a gwels a bands a glad. It's
Yeah.
whistless plume, a gland of three.
Sympathy for the record industry. Now I understand the acronym. Yeah, they have like really good etchings and sometimes locked grooves as well, I think. Yeah, yeah, no problem, Forst. But, so, yeah, obviously, like Nick, I'm passionate about Nurse's Wound, and I will probably do a multi-part deep dive in the discography, the collaborations, the one-offs, and but until then, I thought this was a fun little video to do and to share with you this my new Miss Mentler Nurse's Wound record, and that's it for today. I hope this was this was fun, interesting, even if admittedly a little bit disjointed. But like the video if you're watching this after the stream, or even now if you like the video, leave a comment to continue the discussion if you want. And if you want to support the channel, as usual, you can leave a little tip in the Ko-fi jar, Ko-fi link in the description. And now everyone can congratulate me for my new Nurse's Wound. Yes, I'm still managed to not miss one because I'm one of these. One could believe or suspect that I would be the biggest Nurse's Wound collector in the world, but far from that. There are even there's at least half a dozen people who are even more serious than me. Like I get the ones that are super limited if there's only one pressing of it, but there are people who get also these plus all the art versions of every single new releases, also refurbished all the test pressing with art, original art, and all that. I can't afford any of that, but I'm happy with what I have and what I can get, and I hope some of you are intrigued with it, and that we can share our nerdy passion and beautiful passion for Nurse Who's Wound, Stapleton. Sarah Stapleton, his partner, who's also collaborating a lot behind the scenes on the artwork, the production, and maybe more that we are not aware of. And the usual gang, Colin Potter, Andrew Lyles, Irapex. And I've been also, one thing to note, I've been in contact with all of them personally, and they've all been very nice people, very helpful, somewhat private. They don't like over engage, but they do try to help you if they can, and they are reachable, which is quite nice and maybe logical considering the nature of their releases, do it yourself, limited. Like, of course, there's I wouldn't say there is a Nurse Susan community. There was a Nurse Susan fan page on Facebook, and that was quite toxic. I must say, some of it was quite toxic, and I left it even before I left Facebook, like almost 10 years ago or so. Anyways, thank you guys, and I'll see you on the Friday stream if you want to come. If I don't see you before, bye bye.